Hello folks and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix, and welcome, bienvenue, à Montreal, and to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is looking a little different to normal. Check that out, the new pit lane and paddock complex, which they've built in 9 months. 9 months! They had an unbelievably savage winter this year, which apparently is colder than expected, but then they had moments that were hotter than expected, which is why all the roads in Montreal have kind of cracked and fallen apart, and yeah, it's just bedlam in there. But this, they have somehow created in like 9 months. It's an astonishing achievement, and it looks beautiful. So yeah, the same, but different, but still same. Lance Stroll, the only Canadian that will be competing in the field this weekend. He has a huge grandstand down that end of the track by the hairpin, which gets larger and larger every year as his popularity in his home nation soars. It's been a tricky couple of races for Racing Point, Sports Pacer Racing Point F1 team. The upgrade package that arrived in Barcelona did not give the team the step forward that they had been expecting. Will that change around this weekend? We talked to Lance arriving here for his home race on a track that he loves, and with all of his fans around and all of that media time and everything, it's always that double-edged sword at a home race, taking up time with media time, but also keeping focused on the job at hand.
Yeah, there hasn't been too many media commitments, thanks to Joanne. She's been good to me. So yesterday was a lot of fun. Yeah, we were out on the ice with the Montreal Canadiens, playing some hockey. That was a good time. So if that's what a media commitment has to be, I'll sign up for it. And aside from that, no, it's been great. Just a week at home, visiting. It's seeing some friends, catching up with some friends and family has been special. And now I'm looking forward to the race. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend, and a great track. We all love coming here. So we're definitely all set to get going.
It's a track that should hold something in common with Baku, which was the last track where you guys really looked competitive. What's gone wrong on the last 2 weekends since you've got that upgrade package on the car?
Yeah, it's tough to tell. I mean, the car just hasn't really been quick enough. So we've looked into it. We have our reasons, and we're looking to turn that around this weekend in Montreal.
When you say it's not quick enough, is the balance okay? It just doesn't have the pace, or is there an issue with the balance that means you can't extract the speed that you need from it?
A combination of both. It's balance, grip, all that really. So that's racing. There's tracks that suit the car better than others, and we just haven't really been able to get the car hooked up in the last couple of races, and unfortunately no points because of that. So that's history, and now onwards and upwards. Canada's been a track that the team's been good at in previous years, and we want to bring that momentum here this weekend, and for the next few events.
Good to hear from Lance then before his home Grand Prix. Now he's got a Mercedes engine in the back of his car. All Mercedes teams this weekend will hold. Are you walking? Can we talk quickly? Lance is not the only Canadian taking part this weekend. You're doing FP1.
Yes, very excited. Home race, so I got to experience that last year, and it was probably one of the highlights of my racing career so far. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Cool. And you've already been in the car this year. You already trialled some little bits, which I understand are kind of back on it again this weekend. Will the knowledge of the car help?
Yeah, I think definitely will. I mean, I've done 3 full days in the car so far, so feel well prepared, and yeah, getting to trial some of the new bits that will be on already in Barcelona back on the race weekend for sure will give me a little bit of a head start in terms of the feeling. So yeah, hopefully we get some good data running it on a race weekend, and move the team forward.
Cool. Thanks. Sorry to take up your time en route to go and do something, not sure what. We were going to talk about Mercedes then. Let's not actually. Let's talk about the guy that he's replacing in FP1. Let's talk to Robert Kubica, of course. Scene of that huge crash for him, scene of his first Formula One victory, and he returns here. We'll be missing FP1 because Nicholas Latifi there will be in the car. But as he's already said, some development parts to be trialled, some hopeful step forwards for Williams.
Well, this is a good question how it will be, because you never know, but definitely Canada is a different characteristic track, so probably there will be some shuffle up cards. Of course, as always, unfortunately, I think we are too far off from the others to be in the fight, but let's hope the car will be feeling good, and we have a new suspension or development to the suspension, which I never ran. Was tested by Nicolas in Barcelona, so it will be first time in P2, which I will have a try, and then we'll review.
So one fewer session for you this weekend. How much will that affect your feel, your ability to develop the car over the weekend?
Well, it's always better to have a bit more laps than less of them during weekend, but yeah, I think I haven't been here 9 years, so it's a tricky track. But although first FP1 is always a bit green track and dirty, so hopefully it will not be such a big disadvantage. But definitely it's something which is new for me. I will be watching someone else driving my car during free practice.
So we were talking about Mercedes engines, weren't we? Yes, we were. All Mercedes teams have a new Spec 2 power unit in the back of their cars this weekend, including, of course, the World Championship leaders, Lewis Hamilton with the win in Monaco. It wasn't a sixth 1-2 of the season for the team after Bottas took a little bit of damage in the pits after that run-in with Max Verstappen. But Hamilton, I think, with a superb drive in Monaco to hold off the Red Bull, on those tyres that really shouldn't have lasted for the entire race, held off all comers and recorded another win. Let's talk to the championship leader returning here to the scene of his first ever Formula One victory. Upgraded power unit, we understand, for the team this weekend. How important is it to keep seeing these incremental changes to keep you at the sharp end?
Yeah, I mean, the guys are working incredibly hard back at the factory to find, it's so hard to continue to squeeze something from the same, the same block of metal, basically, to continue to evolve it, and it gets harder and harder. I think at the beginning there was massive steps to be taken in terms of improving the technology, where now it's like small steps. So much work for the smallest increments, but reliability hopefully will be a big part of that on this next engine, and being that it's fresh, it should be stronger than the previous one, and with the small bits of upgrades, it hopefully will be a little bit more powerful, but it is small steps, as I said.
Track that has very happy memories for you. How do you expect to go this weekend?
I think it'll be good. I think the car should be strong this weekend. I think it's a track that definitely struggled the last couple of years, slightly with the longer car, and but also I think this weekend the Red Bulls and the Ferraris will be really, really close. Last year the Red Bulls were really strong. This year the Ferraris are very strong on the straights, particularly, which might be a real challenge for us. But I hope that it's close between us.
And so to the guy that Lewis Hamilton managed to keep behind him for 60 plus laps in Monaco, Max Verstappen. I think we all noticed that turn in Max Verstappen's season last year after the Monaco Grand Prix, where it had all gone wrong in free practice 3, and from that point onwards, it's been like he's a completely renewed driver, a very changed driver. And I wonder if, the guy of 12 months ago would have been calm enough to have stayed behind Lewis for all those laps, just waiting for that one mistake that could have opened up the opportunity for taking the win. As it was, obviously, with his 5-second penalty, he fought with Hamilton for the whole contest, looking for that way through to take the win, ultimately finished off the podium. But I think a really measured, mature drive from Max in Monaco, showing just how far he's come over that last 12 months. But what must it have been like to sit there for lap after lap, looking for just the smallest mistake, the smallest opening to have a go. A great drive from Max in Monaco, and a driver who I think has got the most out of his car in every single Grand Prix this year.
Yeah, it was just you could see his front tires, of course, dropping off massively. So at one point he couldn't turn his car. Around Monaco it's very hard to pass, but I was always trying to at least put the pressure on that he was forced to push instead of just slow down, which is very easily done in Monaco. But yeah, to pass it was always very tricky because you can of course always go a bit earlier on throttle because the rear tires were still in a good state. I think if you would get graining on the rear tires, then you are in more trouble. But around Monaco, graining your fronts is still not a big issue because if you can accelerate good out of the corners, nobody is going to pass you.
Looking on to last year, Max last year and Max this year, would you have done anything differently last year, do you think, in the way that you drove as opposed to this year? Because this year it was such a measured drive.
The thing is always, when you look back at it, you can do a lot of things differently. It's very easy to look back at it. But for me, I always say that those things happen for a reason and they have to happen maybe. It's not nice at the time, but it's, well, look at me now, I feel good about it. So, those things happen.
This weekend, the Honda engine, is this a real test for you guys as to where you are in the ultimate competitiveness of the power unit?
I don't know. I think on every track you get a clear picture, and we know that we are a little bit behind, so it's not a surprise that here it's going to be maybe a little bit more difficult for us. But last year was also not too bad. We just have to also make sure that the car is working well, because at the end of the day, it's both have to work well together.
You keep saying every weekend you're not really interested in anything other than winning. Are the steps being taken this year? Do you feel the moves forward that gets you closer to that?
Well, it's a bit tricky. Like every weekend it can be a bit different, and of course we know that we are not, let's say, in a winning shape yet. But I think also nobody really expected that from the beginning to start with a new partnership. So we are on a good way. We are pushing very hard. A lot of new things are coming to the car, and hopefully, we are doing a better job than the others. But of course, the other teams are no idiots themselves. So it's just it's very hard, because if it would be that easy, there would be many more teams in Formula One doing a really good job. So. We just have to stay very motivated and focused.
Max Verstappen then is just a few points behind Sebastian Vettel in the Drivers' Formula One World Championship standings. It's not quite going to plan for Ferrari this year, as we've said right from the very start. But could this be the weekend where it turns around for them? The long straights should play to Ferrari's strengths. That's the theory. Anyway, talk this week that there is a wholesale change taking place at Maranello. Mattia Binotto has been quoted saying that the hierarchical structure that is in place at Ferrari, a very linear sort of vertical structure, will be changed, and he intends to change it to more of a sort of an umbrella structure. He's compared it to 96-97 when Michael Schumacher first went to Ferrari and the changes that the team underwent in those years. Don't forget, it took them a couple of seasons, about 4 or 5 years, for them to get into that place in 2000 where they started that amazing run of success. Mattia sees the similar place now to where they were in 96-97. Again, what Jean Todt with the team, take away that vertical structure, put in that umbrella structure where you have heads of departments with that diffused responsibility that sort of empowers them to make the choices, to take it on their own shoulders and create that success that led to Ferrari being such a force. That is Mattia's design for the team. Amazing that it had been allowed to swing back to where it was. That you would need to take it back to this situation that they had under Todd. Anyway, so let's talk to Sebastian Vettel, actually, shall we? Yes, let's. Is this the race where it finally comes good for Ferrari? Mercedes and Red Bull both wary of the threat from Ferrari. We've been wary of it all season, though. Does Sebastian Vettel feel the same way? How's he looking forward to this weekend in Canada?
I think we had certainly not the start that we were looking for. Nevertheless, I think we were able to score some valid points and good points. So I think the next races will be really crucial for us to try and get back to the front and give a much harder time to Mercedes. Once we can establish that, then I think we have plenty of reason to look forward. So, as I said, it will be crucial to do it rather sooner than later. But at the moment, I'm not too fast. I'm not looking at, okay, this is the date. It has to happen by then, and then we see how it goes. Clearly, we are behind. Clearly, there's quite a big margin between Mercedes and the rest. So Mercedes and also ourselves. We have to close that gap. and get ahead. Otherwise, it will be difficult to turn it around. So that's as much realism as you can get now.
Yeah. Nevertheless, I think Mattia alluded to the fact that with the downforce that they have, does your car need a fundamental rethink if next year's rules are just going to be an evolution of this?
Well, rest assured we're flat out. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of work going on. Obviously, whatever comes to the car rather short term has been launched and triggered a while ago. So, but certainly, the fact that we're struggling this year with certain things, with the tires, overall grip of the car, handling of the car, even if they're linked, for sure you look at all the options that you have, and there's a trend in the last couple of years that you start next year's project rather sooner than, let's say, the usual, September or summer break. It starts way ahead, so for sure we're looking into it and see if there's anything fundamental we want to change.
The team that was hoping to be best of the rest this season certainly has its work cut out for it. There are a couple of teams vying for that place at the moment. Can Renault be it this weekend? Let's talk to Nico Hlkenberg as he embarks on a weekend where much is expected and hoped for from the French team.
How are you feeling this weekend?
So far, so good. Nothing bad happened yet, so still all reason to be up for it. No, but I am. I think Montreal, cool place, good track. Half a street circuit. It's always fun around here to get close to the walls, exploit the limits. Usually, I think from history, I always had good races here, and like the place. So I look forward to it. To a smooth weekend and hopefully a bunch of points, because it's been a while since we've done that.
Renault obviously introduced an engine upgrade a couple of races ago, but this is a circuit we could potentially see the full force of it. What can we expect from that?
Yeah, definitely. That will pay off. This is also known as a power circuit. A lot of straight lines and straight line speed certainly important here. So, I expect we should be in good form and want to challenge, for that fourth best team position.
We talked about that midfield battle, and Haas definitely expected to be top of the mix coming into the season, but they have struggled with their tyres all year. Monaco was an interesting one. That guy ended up in the points after a really good run. His teammate, though, had the better of qualifying, but the strategy let him down. Not happy after the race. Though, reset, turn up in Canada, what's he hoping for from the Canadian Grand Prix? Monaco was looking so good right up to the point at which it wasn't looking good anymore. Have you made peace with the fact that at Monaco sometimes that's just the way it goes?
I think so. There's not much else you can do. It was just, it was kind of 50-50 with whether to pit or not, and we chose to pit, and it just then things after that didn't go our way. So it was really, many different circumstances that meant we didn't get anything out of it, and it eventually took the wrong decision. But at the time when we took the decision, there's no way that we could have said it was the right or the wrong decision. It was kind of 50-50, and tricky. Ricciardo was very slow behind the safety car, so he actually pitted with a big margin to how close he could be to the safety car. So had he been closer, and when he pitted, then I would have been closer as well, of course, and then we would have come out in front of this train of cars with Norris and all those guys that were going slow afterwards. So that would have changed a lot of things. So it's all very hard to. It's hard to say that we could have done a lot different. Looking back, of course, it's easy to say what we should have done, but at the time, pretty difficult.
Up to that point, though, so good. Car looked great. Quali was fantastic. Has that given you some inspiration, some sort of high points after what's been at times a really disappointing start to the year?
Well, I think all the way through this season so far, the car's been extremely fast in quali trim, and that's very encouraging. That shows where the car is, and we've just had a few races where we struggled a lot from qualifying to the race. Then suddenly we had no pace, and it was mainly down to tires. We weren't managing the tires properly. It seems that we made progress in Barcelona and in Monaco. It looked much better, but we'll see if it's still the case. Every race we're kind of verifying whether or not we've got it under control.
we can never feel 100% sure that the next race may be different.
Baku was a really tough one for you guys. This track characteristics are fairly similar, I think we could maybe say, to Baku. Not a million miles off, certainly straights, long straights, and some, tricky, slower speed corners. Are you confident that you've got on top of the tyres enough that we'll be able to see a difference here between what was going on in Baku?
You could say it's a little bit like Baku, but then again, it's not. It's different tyres and quite a different track, and I think we look. It's more like Monaco in a way, okay, with long straights. So we'll see. I hope it's good.
Now, I think McLaren have been one of the surprises, a good surprise, of the season so far, and Monaco was no exception. At a time when a couple of the teams actually flat-footed themselves with their strategy by sticking rigidly to algorithms, McLaren kind of looked at the situation, read it perfectly, and employed a situation whereby, because he'd had a disappointing opening gambit to the race, they were able to use Lando to kind of slow the field a little bit, as you're allowed to do, that gave Carlos the space to pit, maximise his race, and ultimately come out with a brilliant result for the team that saw them finish best of the rest. We spoke to Carlos about it. He sort of reflected that it really showed how far the team had come, how it was thinking, and that he'd noticed a real change in the team between when he first turned up to now, and that actually it was that they were hungry last year, at the end of last year, but that hunger, because they've seen the potential in the team, that hunger is just greater now for McLaren. So really, really positive time, really, really good time. And also, I think what is adding into that positivity are two teammates who are working for one common goal. Let's talk to Lando Norris about that. Of course, a Formula One rookie, but somebody who had the presence of mind not to kick off against that kind of strategy in Monaco, but actually make it work. Take a huge amount of thanks from Carlos afterwards. Carlos was like, I couldn't have done this race, this result without Lando playing that strategy perfectly. So from a really rocky time for McLaren, things starting to settle into a really good space of positivity and great results that have come as a result of that. What have you been doing since the last race?
Not a lot, really. Driving on the sim a bit. I guess going over Monaco, what went well, what didn't go well. Looking ahead to here, apart from that, trying to make the most of relaxing at home and doing nothing.
Talk to us about Monaco, because Carlos had to give you a big thank you after Monaco. It was quite a smart play that you guys made.
It was, but it wasn't. It wasn't the plan in the beginning of the race. I lost a couple of positions at the start, and was just in a position where it was going to be very difficult to score points. And we just made the most of that, and that was pretty much it. So it wasn't like I went out in the beginning and we had a plan to do exactly what happened. It turned out that way because of me not doing the best of jobs. It wasn't. I didn't do the whole thing on purpose. Let's say a lot of it was just the way it turned out throughout the race. And I still had fun, and Carlos obviously got good points, but a lot of that was just him driving well and getting the points. I think maybe, I don't know, he would have lost one or two positions at most if I wasn't in the position I was. So it wouldn't have made the biggest of differences, but at the end of the day, that's just how it went.
Feels like the team is operating really as a cohesive unit and marching forward. Andreas has obviously started work now. Have you felt an immediate impact of his responsibilities and his new position?
To be honest, not a lot. It's not something. He doesn't just come in and change everything straight away. He needs a few weekends or a couple of months, let's say, to take into account what goes on, what things need to change. He has a very different outlook, let's say, from what I do. I just get in and drive, and he looks after, from the catering to the team, the mechanics, the engineers back at the factory, everyone who works to, try and hype everyone up, change the environment a bit. And that's not something that just changes over one night. And there's maybe a couple of things he's started already, but a lot of it is longer term rather than something overnight. So there's not anything really so far that I've noticed in terms of changes.
And the relationship between you and Carlos seems to be a very positive one. We've looked at Monaco already, and you guys are helping each other out, given the circumstances you were in. Is that what the team needs to take it back up to the top, that you guys are working together rather than completely focused on one-upping each other?
Yeah, I think so. We have a lot of fun. We get along very well, which is obviously good for me, not just the team, but from the team side of things, it's very good. I think we want to get back to winning. I want to be able to win races, and the best way of doing that is not to be just having a rivalry with my teammate. It's to have fun, work together, and make the team or push the team more to improve and become a better team altogether. So. Yeah, that's the main thing. But apart from that, it's just, I don't know. It's just how I am. I'm not a mean guy who doesn't like my teammate, and just whatever. It's just trying to have some fun.
And so to Toro Rosso, Alex Albon has been getting pretty much all the plaudits this year as one of the standout rookies of the season so far. Constantly impressive and impressing everyone, but I don't think his achievements should overshadow what has been a phenomenal return to Formula One for his teammate Danny Kvyat. I think arguably the best Danny Kvyat that I've ever seen in his entire career. Certainly the best Danny Kvyat we've ever seen in Formula One, riding high on confidence and just doing an outstanding job right now.
Yeah, I am really enjoying it. It's season has been getting better and better. I mean, team's been doing a great job. I'm really happy with how the team is going this year, and me also doing my best to try and get the things done in the best way possible. So last 2-3 events were really like a turning point for us. I mean, they've been all pretty strong. Barcelona as well as Monaco, a lot of points scored by the whole team and by me. So it's pleasing, and we just intend to continue in this kind of direction.
Monaco was great. Baku had shown great potential as well. A lot of people saying this circuit with its characteristics should favour the same teams as in Baku, and with the temperature as it is, do you think this will be a weekend that will suit you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this year so far the car was quite competitive in most kind of tracks. We didn't have huge up and downs. I mean, the car was always somewhere borderline top 10, and just last couple of events we've been like consistently Q3 contenders and top 10 in the race. And I would say even in the race we were the fastest out of all the midfield teams, which was great. And hopefully we can do the same here. I mean, every race starts from zero, so we just need to do our work well on Friday to understand what I need and what the car needs to be in an operating window. And if we manage to put ourselves in a good operating window, the car will do well, I'm sure.
And so we finish today with Alfa Romeo. Much was expected of them after pre-season testing, but as we come to this end of the first third of the year, I think it's fair to say expectations not wholly met. Certainly the last 2 Grand Prix in which the team has very much gone off the boil. Why is that? Have they discovered what the issue is? Will it be better this weekend? Let's talk to Kimi Räikkönen. Of course, 300 races for him in Monaco. He didn't really care about that. Obviously, it's Kimi. Very chatty today, actually, as it turns out. And some good stuff from him too. Hey, Kimi. Is this one you like? One you enjoy?
It's difficult, obviously. I think it's tricky to go fast. There's not many corners, and everybody's close here usually with a lap time. So we'll see how we get going. But
where do you think the team is at the moment, having had 6 races now? In Montreal. It's a stupid question, I know. But I mean, in terms of the competitiveness of the team, is it very track specific, or do you find yourself coming to a point where you think you know where you are in the order?
No, I think it's been like last 2 races obviously been quite bad for us. But I think Monaco, if you qualify badly there, that's what you get. Even if you qualified a bit higher up, passing there, you can pretty much forget it. But Barcelona, for sure, we expected more. I think obviously I went off on the first lap. That definitely didn't help. But I think in the test afterwards we understood some things, and hopefully we are better off here. I think on the downforce side, maybe we were not as. We don't have as much as we hope to have, and obviously those 2 tracks are full downforce. So that's you add what you have, but if it's not enough, it's not enough. But here at least you're in a position to traditional a bit lower downforce, so you can choose a bit where you're going to be. And I think it's a work in progress. We have to tidy up small things and make qualifying a bit better. So things will then turn out to be okay. I'm not worried. Obviously, it's not great the last 2 races, but I think we have all the tools to still be in the fight there, and we just need to put it together.
That work in progress, I guess, would depend on developments coming. Are they coming as fast as you need them to stay in that midfield fight, and are they working when they do come?
I mean, I don't think you never, if you ask any team, it's never fast enough and not big enough, but that's how it is in F1. But yeah, we're getting things, and I think that's a good thing in a team. Usually they work as we expect, and I think yes, we always want to bring them more faster, but then we have to realize that we're not the big team, and it takes a bit more time in those kind of things. I think the big team benefit on those things, producing, designing, and especially producing faster new parts is always going to be easier. But we do what we can with what we have, and I think we have to be reasonably happy. Obviously, not with the results, but it's not because we don't try or we don't get what we want. But yeah, we just need to do a bit better job.
So that is your lot from Paddock Pass here in Montreal. I don't know why I'm wearing a jacket. It is utterly sweltering, really is hot, and promises to remain this way for the remainder of the weekend. Now, Paddock expectation is that the competitive order could be similar to what we saw in practice in Baku. It's a similar type of circuit, long straights, those tight little corners as well. It's kind of a street circuit, but not a street circuit here, if you see what we mean. With that in mind, Ferrari had looked in the ascendancy in Baku until the temperature started to drop during qualifying, and they dropped the ball within that. Toro Rosso had looked great in Baku. The order, the expected order, was not what it's become since then. Will we see a return to that Baku order? Will Ferrari be able to stretch their legs here at this race? Will the Mercedes Spec 2 engine catch up with Ferrari on the straights and actually make that gap less or even nothing at all? Will Mercedes just continue in the ascendancy that they have shown to be utterly dominant in the early 6 races? And what of Honda, what of Red Bull around this track? Can't wait to see how it all pans out. Join us for everything. Promises to be a great weekend at this very familiar and yet face sort of lifted venue. It's always great. The fans here are brilliant. The race here is usually fantastic. Hoping for a great weekend. Thanks for your time. Thanks for following along. We will see you later.